Today we're going to learn the next type of factoring, and it's called difference of two squares, which we affectionately call dots. Difference of two squares. So how does it work? Well, first of all, we have to recognize a pattern from some examples we've seen before. When we had to expand binomials and you would do FOIL, right, the four multiplications, and every once in a while the terms would cancel out. Let's take a look at the next one and multiply it out. And the same thing happens, the middle terms cancel out. So what we're recognizing is there's a pattern going on. And it all is based on those two middle terms, which wind up being opposites. Let's also take a look at the brackets, the sum of the terms in the first brackets, and the difference of the same two terms in the second bracket, and we're multiplying them. How do we get those two opposites? How does it happen? It's the outside product of FOIL, the O, and the inside product of FOIL. And so this is the pattern we're looking for to recognize. In the next one, same thing happens. We have the sum of the terms and the difference of the same two terms. They're opposites because of the multiplications. And so this pattern will always yield the two numbers at the bottom, which are perfect squares and they're subtracted. Perfect squares and they're subtracted, which we call the difference of two squares. Let's try some examples where this is going to happen. So we can use the same pattern to work backwards. So if I give you a difference of two squares, and you might recognize these two examples, m squared minus p squared, 9x squared minus 49. And what we have to notice first of all is they're going to move into two brackets, and the first square has to be a perfect square, is going to split by square rooting the m squared. And the second one is also going to split. You're square rooting the p squared. And you put a plus and minus in those brackets. How does it work for the 9x squared? Well, same thing. You square root 9x squared, so that's going to give you a 3x and a 3x. And you square root the 49, and that's going to give you a 7 and a 7. And always it's going to be a plus and a minus. Now the order of the plus and minus don't really matter. I tend to put the minus in the second bracket. Don't forget your equal signs. So once you have recognized you have a difference of two squares, you're going to write the square root of the first term in the front of both brackets. That was the m's or the 3x's. You're going to write the square root of the second term in the back of both brackets. That's the p's or the 7's. And you're going to put a plus sign in the first bracket and a minus sign in the second bracket. So let's try some and see if you can factor following this pattern. Y squared minus 64, 81 minus 4m squared. So we always have to look for the same stuff, right? Do we really have a difference of two squares? Well, are there two terms, right? Okay, there's the 2. Are they both perfect squares? In other words, can you square root both of them? Are they square rootable? And is it a difference? It's kind of weird because sometimes you say, why can't I do this with addition? It'll only work if it's a subtraction. So let's see how this works. You set up your brackets. You take the square root of y squared in the front of both brackets. You take the square root of 64 in the back of both brackets. And you put a plus and minus. Same thing with number 2. Get your brackets set up. Square root of 81 is 9. The square root of 4m squared, ignore the negative for now. The square root of 4m squared is 2m and 2m. And then you put the plus minus. Got to practice this a few more times. Let's go. Oh yeah, they get a little bit tougher, right? But it's still just a matter of recognizing, do we have two terms? Are they subtracted? Are they both perfect squares? Set up your brackets. Now the square root of u squared v squared is going to be uv. The square root of w to the 4, you cut the exponent in half. So if that was a w to the 6, it would be w to the 3, right? Anyways, a w to the 4 chopped in half is w squared. with a plus and a minus on both brackets. Next one, square root of 36d squared. So you got square root the 36 and the d squared. So you're going to get 6d for both of those. And you square root the 121 is 11 with a plus and the minus. So you can see you're going to have to know your perfect squares, right? And you're ready to try some questions on your own. Good luck. Thanks a lot.